Y'all ever hear of the property that was purposely built on a giant geode to attract energy and is haunted by native slaves and prior occupants? Fuck the popcorn. Y'all may need some Henny for this one. Get your motherfucking Henny. Let's get into it. On today's episode of Fuck Around and Find Out, Spiritual Reparations Edition, we have the Wheatland Plantation in Sevierville, Tennessee. The builder of this plantation was a Freemason and built it directly on top of a giant geode. If you don't know what a geode is, go ahead and Google it. I only got 3 minutes, y'all. But it was in an attempt to attract energy and to keep it there. Remember that throughout this story. The story starts out with a Revolutionary War veteran named Timothy Chandler purchasing this property in 1719. He then passed it on to his son, John Chandler. The plan was to make this the biggest wheat plantation in the country, and they made sure that they did that. This plantation was pumping out wheat, honey, and whiskey at an exponential rate. This property is actually in a section of this town called the Great Indian Warpath. So John decided he was going to go to war with natives, Cherokees to be exact. He, of course, won the war because he had more up-to-date modern technology than them. He then decided to bury the bodies of the native in his backyard. And this is where the Fuck Around and Find Out commenced. This plantation has over 3,200 acres and was catered to by 15 slaves who took care of over 300 cattle, hogs, horses, all of that. This place was the war ground for the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. And they have over 28 Cherokee natives buried in the back of this place. As reported today, there was a whopping 70 murders of native and enslaved people and some of the occupants that own this house. So it's haunted. You can visit this plantation today, but I wouldn't, unless you got offerings. When you first go into this plantation, you're greeted by a bloodstain that is not cleanable. I made that word up. One of the occupants that used to own this home killed his father, and the blood will not come up. And the murder scene is played over and over in this home. Visitors report hearing shouts, gurgling as if somebody is choking on their own blood, and then a thud on the ground. People report seeing 2 white men wander around the home who are believed to be Timothy and John Chandler. People report seeing slave children play around the property, little black children that are dressed out of today's time standards, or seeing slaves work on the property as if they do not know that they are not here in this realm anymore. I'm really mad TikTok took my 10-minute feature, so y'all gonna have to come back for part 2 because it gets juicier. The next segment makes my skin crawl. Like and comment for part 2. Part dos. There's also the spirit of a young woman in a blue dress that likes to roam the garden, as does Timothy and John Chandler. But this spirit, for some reason, likes to run up and down the stairs. The spirits at this plantation are unhinged. They don't give a fuck. They're going to show you. They're going to show you that they're real. The backyard grave, yeah, if you go in there, you're met by chanting, courtesy of my native brothers and sisters, disembodied voices, full body apparition. The place is haunted as hell. But there was one account by an anonymous visitor that literally left chills down my spine. One visitor visited the Wheatlands plantation in the fall and brought her children to show them how things were back then and to teach them a lesson about humanity. They were white tea. While they were visiting, one of her sons stated how scared he was. And she had no clue because she didn't know to what extent the history was of this property. And she didn't know that her baby had no veil or protection on his head because they were not spiritualists. All through this tour, her baby kept complaining to her how uncomfortable he was, how he felt like his stomach had dropped in his ass, for lack of a better word from a little kid. Once they were done with the tour, they exited the house and her baby fainted. Didn't have a drop of sweat on him. The temperature was below 70 degrees, so it wasn't like it was hot. They called the ambulance and everything for this little boy. Once he was cleared and declared okay, he told his mother the story of why he fainted. He told his mother that there was a little African-American boy dripping wet and that seemed very angry. And that little boy, the apparition of this slave boy, ran directly through his body, causing him to faint. meaning that there was a little slave child in this home that died in water or was put in water somehow, some way. The little boy said that this little slave child was around his age, so more than likely he was trying to occupy this child and give life a second chance. The anger was out of jealousy and resentment. All in all, this place is haunted. It is haunted, baby. Probably one of the most haunted plantations that I have covered to date. That giant geode that I spoke about in part 1, that is why all the energies are so active here. Everybody want to talk about how crystals don't mean shit, but that Freemason knew what he was doing and how he was going to do it. And this is why the spirits of Wheatland Plantation are still stuck here. I believe that Timothy and John Chandler are stuck there because that's their punishment for what they did. But the natives and the enslaved people literally cannot get out. This is your friendly reminder to do good and be good.